She was letting him hit the peace pipe, honey. Hey you guys, so we are back with another episode recap for Sex and the City Reboot, and just like that, this is episode 2, and in this episode we are going to Big's viewing. We're covering everything that's going on, so if you want to see what my thoughts are, then just keep watching. Keep in mind this will be a spoiler alert just because I'm going to be talking about specific things that happen from the episode. So if you haven't seen the episode and you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch. And yes, I'm at my mom's house in my daughter's room at her granny's house, so that's why it looks like this. And my camera died halfway through the video, but we made it work. Okay, you guys, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get started. Okay, you guys, so we are on episode 2 and we're jumping right into things. As you notice, I'm in my mom's house in my daughter's room at my mom's house, so it's very playful. Okay, so let's jump right into this. I'm going to be doing my makeup while I talk to you guys. Hope you don't mind. I won't be listing any products, so let's get into it. I have my notes right here. Scene 1, Brady and his girlfriend are going at it, child, like we talked about. Let's recap from last episode. So last episode we talked about the fact that Big died, and the episode kind of cut off there. A couple of things that we went over are Brady, he's 17 now, so he has a girlfriend and he has her over, and they get down. Okay? Now, in this particular episode, they open the scene with Brady and his girlfriend going at it. And you can see them. They're doing it. So they have their clothes on, but you can visibly see what's going on. And then we got the headboard banging. We got a lot of dialogue and moaning and things like that. The camera switches to Miranda and Steve, and Miranda's like, do you hear that? And Steve, I guess, they're trying to show that Steve's getting older, so he can't hear that well. And it's just one of those things where you kind of figure that Miranda is allowing this because if he doesn't do it here, he's going to be doing it somewhere else, and I'd rather have eyes on what's going on, so to speak. I'd rather him do it here than be doing it somewhere in an alley or wherever. That's what I got from it when it comes to Brady. And he's 17. What you gonna do? Tell him, oh, you can't have a girlfriend? Oh, you guys can't do this, can't do that? Okay, so Carrie calls. So this is kind of, this is when everybody finds out what happened with Big. Because you guys know we were at the concert. So Carrie is the only one at this point who knew what was going on with Big. Okay, so we're just continuing from there. So Miranda gets a phone call. It's very dramatic. We don't hear what's going on, but the next scene, we just see Miranda show up at Carrie's house. She doesn't say anything. Carrie opens the door. They just embrace each other, and there's a little bit of crying. And then you see the coroners in the background with the body bag. You can, it depicts that. So they're getting ready to roll Big away, and Carrie says to Miranda, what am I supposed to do now? So that's that. So then we see Carrie and Miranda laying down in the bed together. Carrie is crying, and in between falling asleep and crying, when she actually closes her eyes, no, you're kidding me, my battery's dying. As she's closing her eyes, she visualizes Big and wakes up, and she's rubbing her back like it hurts. And then she says to Miranda, Big used to rub my back. So Miranda rubs her back, and she's like, is that okay? And Carrie's like, she doesn't say anything. She's numb. So Miranda ends up kind of spooning Carrie as to be Big, you know what I mean? It's the first night without her husband, so she's trying to do whatever she can to make it feel like he's still there. The next scene, we have Carrie researching funeral homes on her computer, looking at funeral home videos, trying to get a feel for where she's actually, who she's going to go with for this. And Miranda suggests that she make some coffee for her and Carrie, and Carrie just kind of wants Miranda to get some sleep because she's been with her all night, and she knows she has class, and she remembered that she bombed the first day, so she's like, you need to redo that. So you really need to go home and get some rest so you can be ready for class. Charlotte, she suggests that Charlotte comes over and takes Miranda's spot. So they're kind of like switching in and out, taking shifts when it comes to Carrie with this whole situation, so she's not alone. And that's very relatable, because if you ever had a family member, you know, that lost someone really close to them, it really is like that. Like, they really just can't be left alone. Miranda says to Carrie, like, where's the coffee at? And she's like, it's in the freezer, which threw me off. But I do coffee pods, so if you do like the ground coffee, maybe it makes sense to put it in the freezer, but I thought that was kind of her just kind of being out to lunch. So Miranda starts looking for the coffee in the freezer, and then Carrie was like, she totally forgot that she even asked about coffee. So that was like, oh, poor Carrie. So next scene, Anthony and Stanford, the gay husband couple, they are actually embracing each other. So this is basically them following up from the night at the recital. I don't know, I guess they spent the night separate places because they were upset with each other or whatever. And they just were embracing each other once, I think, who came home? I think the bald one came home. I forget which one came home and which one was in the closet crying. I don't know, but they embraced each other and they were like, we're so lucky to have each other, blah, blah, blah. Because you know all they do is fight. All they do is fight. And so they're just realizing in this moment that they're lucky to have each other. In the next scene, Carrie and Charlotte actually go to the funeral home. And I just wanted to point out their outfits, because this is very much about the fashion, okay? It's still about the fashion. They're both wearing baby pink. Charlotte is wearing a tweed pink dress that is past knee length. I think the dress may have been Chanel. It kind of gave that Chanel feel. And it was pink, white, and a little hint of purple. It was very, very cute, very classy. She had on a pink waist belt, and she had a Louis Vuitton bag. I don't know what style bag it was, but it was a Louis Vuitton bag with a little pink Louis Vuitton emblem on it. Carrie is in a pink oversized shirt jacket with a white pinstripe jumpsuit, and she has her hair in a low swept middle part ponytail that she pulled off to the side, and she looks really, really cute. And I see Carrie's whole like fashion theme is just the oversized. I mean, Carrie is very boho chic anyway, but this season she seems to be doing the oversized pieces paired with different things, so I really love that for her. Carrie says that she really doesn't like the funeral home, and she doesn't think that Big would like it either. So she says it has a really old people feel to it. That's when Charlotte breaks down, and she's feeling very guilty for forcing Carrie, so to speak, to go to that concert when she could have been with Big in the Hamptons. And she feels like, you know, she's just feeling really guilty in that all of this is basically her fault. Which Carrie said, no, it's not your fault. Like, it's just not your fault. And he had a heart attack, which really could have happened anywhere, you know what I mean? So that's when the mortician comes in, and she thinks that Charlotte is Carrie because of the way Charlotte is acting. She's acting a fool. She's snotty. It is so loud in here. So loud. She's acting a fool. She's snotting everywhere. She's crying. So the mortician comes in, and she's like, Mrs. Preston. She says that to Charlotte. And Charlotte was so upset. Carrie lets her know, no, I'm Mrs. Preston. And that this place is just not going to work. So the lady didn't really know what was going on. So she's like, I'm so sorry. It just seemed like your friend was you because she's so upset. Please don't, leave just because of my mistake. And she's like, no, it's not you, it's me. So Jane, the mortician, she's like, shit. And the scene cut there. Then we have Carrie putting Charlotte in the car and suggesting that she go lie down. And because at this point she's not being much help to Carrie. Carrie's the one that's supposed to be doing all this crying, but Charlotte just can't pull it together, which is really hard when you're. It's really, really hard when you're dealing with grief Like me, I always cry. And no matter who it is, I always cry. So Carrie walks down the street and she sees a man that looks like Big sitting down eating with his whoever he's with, and she just kind of fades out, and the scene is really sad. Super sad. Next scene, Samantha arrives to school and she drops her books all over the floor after showing her ID to security. They go through like this little checkpoint or whatever. And as she's picking up her books, the professor comes right behind her. So she's scrambling to find her ID. And security tells the professor, hey, can you please step to the side until you find your ID, because you're holding up the line, basically. And she's like, oh, just give me a second. It's right here at the top, blah, blah, blah. Miranda at this point tries to vouch for the professor, and she's like, hey, that's my professor. She doesn't, why are you giving her a hard time? Like, Captain Save-A-Ho, Miranda. God, like. But it's basically standard protocol. It wasn't like the security guard was treating her differently because of any particular reason. It was just standard protocol, which is hard to tell in this climate, which is really sad. But it's very hard to tell if someone is just doing their job these days or if they are racially profiling, because it's so prominent. So Miranda, trying to be an ally, is like, hold up, that's my professor. Don't treat her like that. So they have a little powwow, and Miranda tried to explain her stance on anti-racism and how if you are an ally, you should speak out about injustice. And the professor was like, well, it kind of came off as a white savior complex, so it's hard for white people too, because they think they're helping, but then it comes off as white savior sometimes. And it's like, you really have to know your stuff when you are trying to be an ally. Even though, again, I know Miranda's heart, but this is very important to have this conversation because it is very, very relevant. So I love that they're depicting that, because sometimes it's hard to have the conversation with people and get them to understand, because it's such an emotional topic anyway. And then so for some white people, they feel like, well, we're trying to help you or whatever, but it's like, you shouldn't even have to say that you're trying to help me. Like, this shouldn't even be a thing. So I get it. The next scene, Charlotte and the girls are talking about death and sadness in the closet, and her husband comes in to let her know that a friend is here to see her for lunch. Now, this is something that I did not mention in the first episode recap. It's Nicole Ari Parker. I guess they're trying to intertwine her as the new Samantha. I'm not sure. That's what I hear as word on the street. I couldn't hear, and then I was half asleep when I was watching the first episode, so I really don't know who she is. She just keeps popping up, kind of, but they don't really focus too much on her. They keep throwing a little spice of her in there. So that's who's here, and I guess they made plans to go to lunch. She looks absolutely fabulous. She's telling Charlotte, like, I understand you're grieving, it's okay that you forgot or whatever. She has a wavy, voluminous bob with like highlights and caramel highlights, and a tan, like kind of like a what is that material? It's not, I was about to say something so crazy. What is that material? Burlap? It might be burlap. Burlap dress that is long sleeved, and the skirt of the dress is like that uneven type of skirt, like a witch's skirt. It's like that, and it has a bunch of big, gaudy, like gold accessories all over it. It's very, 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 very over the top. Super nice. The next scene, so Miranda and Steve, I don't know why I want to call him Todd, but Miranda and Steve are getting dressed in the closet for the funeral, and they're just talking about Big, and he's like, he shouldn't have been on that Peloton with his condition and his age. And Miranda's like, why? Like, it's good for him. Why do you feel like you're so attached to this whole conversation about the Peloton? And he's like, I don't know, I guess that's just my way of making it, giving it a reason or whatever. So they had a little moment and they hugged it out. Brady comes into the room and sees them hugging, and he's like, Steve was like, come here, Brady. And Brady was like, no, I'm good. And Steve was like, we're not okay. I loved that scene so much because it showed that parents don't have all the answers. Parents feel things. Parents go through things. And parents aren't always superheroes all the time, and sometimes you just have to give your parents a hug. I love that scene. And he did. They hugged for a long time. I like to let my concealer sit, so I'm just going to keep talking. So the next scene, Carrie is on the phone finalizing plans, and we just see the Peloton there in the background, and it's kind of like, oh my god. Carrie takes a look around Big's closet, because I think they have separate closets, because Big's closet is just full of suits. The closet system they have for him is very masculine. It's very beautiful, noticeably beautiful. The next scene, Carrie arrives to the viewing with Anthony and his husband on each arm, and the venue is super chic, and Carrie mentioned that it was like some lesbians that I guess own the venue, rent the venue out, I don't know, but guess it was the best place they could find in the city. And I'm not clear if they are lesbian lovers or if they are just sisters. I really don't know, or just friends. It wasn't clear to me. I assume that they are lovers. Carrie is disappointed because she asked for no flowers, and when they walk in, there's a bouquet of flowers, an arrangement right on the casket, like all white. So Carrie, her look was very simple. A pearl necklace. She had like a small accessory. You know how she wears those little hat things, but it was flat. It looked kind of like a black wicker basket. I don't know what you call those things, but it was just sitting right here. She had on a black 3/4 length v-neck top with a tulle skirt. So the lining of the tulle skirt, the outer lining was kind of like black lace, and the inside was white. And I don't know, did I mention she had on pearl earrings? And then she had a small ivory handbag with detailing all over it, and it was a very high fashion look. She had a high swept bun, every hair in place, true Carrie fashion. She ended up speaking to the venue host about the flowers, and they said they thought they were very beautiful, but they arrived like pretty much right after she got off the phone with them. And so she asked who they were from, and they just handed her the card, and the card said Samantha. And that was, girl, my eyes filled with tears. I was like, oh my god, this is too much. And Carrie was like, the flowers can stay. So kind of like a peace offering from Samantha, letting her know I'm in the know, I know what's going on, and sending her condolences in her Samantha type of way, being that they aren't speaking right now. I thought it was a very good, non-pushy way to do things. So the next scene, mostly everyone has a... Alright, y'all, I'm on the iPhone because my battery just died, and I really didn't want to wait too long to get this second episode out. So let's finish this, okay? I got a weird little setup going on right here, so alright. Okay, so mostly everyone has arrived. Carrie talks with Miranda and Charlotte, and Miranda makes like a bad joke about insurance. Carrie tells the ladies that the funeral director asked if Carrie would like to rent a casket because Big is being cremated, and Carrie was like, no, Big would not even rent a car. And it just really puts into perspective how freaking bougie they are. So that's why Miranda made the bad joke about insurance. Moving on. The scene is very emotional, girl. Very emotional. The ladies ask about the flowers. Carrie told them they were from Samantha. The ladies were stunned, but in a good way. Girl, get the gossipy. So Carrie greets Gloria. Gloria is apparently Big's assistant, and they have a moment. If y'all remember who Gloria is, let me know, because I don't. So Shay, the podcast host, greets Carrie. She shows up. It seems like the vibe at this funeral, not funeral, but the viewing, I guess, is basically like, I don't know, maybe it was announced because Carrie's like a who's who person, and whoever fuck with Carrie and Big showed up. Because Carrie was surprised at certain people even being there or whatever. Or maybe Carrie sent out invites and didn't expect everybody to show up. But I just got this vibe that she just was surprised with certain people that were there. So Anthony and his husband have words with Gloria because she's sitting in the wrong seat when the seats clearly have little names on them. So it got a little snippety there. Y'all have to remind me who is Gloria, because honey, that scene was a little awkward. Miranda, this is the next scene. Miranda asked the bartender for some wine. The bartender said the wine is for after service. And Miranda informs her that all the liquor provided was from her husband's bar. So, of course, she starts to pour her a drink, right? So, yeah, she gets ready to pour her a drink, and then she changes her order. She's like, well, never mind. I don't think that there's going to be enough wine for everybody. So, can you just go ahead and make me a bourbon and make it super quick? And because she's speaking at the funeral. It was awkward again. So Miranda speaks. She ends up speaking a speech or a word that Carrie wrote. It was really nice. And then Big's brother speaks, real short and sweet. Says that Big told him that's the happiest he's ever been. Thanks, Carrie, for that. And I do believe that Carrie really, I know it took a while with those two, and I could really relate to their love story. And they really wanted to make it right for one another according to each other's wants and desires. And then they sacrificed and compromised when need be. So I really admired their relationship. Gloria, so they start playing a video of Big throughout the years, you know, from young to, you know, whatever. Gloria is back there snotting and crying so loud, like louder than Carrie. Like Carrie has yet to express her true grief. And it's really starting to get on my nerves that Miss Carrie can never just express her grief, okay? But anyway, so everybody turning around, looking at Gloria. And Carrie sends Gloria, when it's all said and done, Carrie was saying her goodbyes to Gloria and sent her, you know, with the cab or whatever. And Gloria's like, yeah, when you get yourself together, let's sit down and talk because there's a ton of paperwork to go through. So Susan Sharon, I guess this is somebody from Carrie's past. This might even be Big's ex or something. Greets Carrie, or maybe it's her arch nemesis in the blogger world. I'm not sure, but they had some beef. And she's like, I came here because I want to let it go. And I'm like, bitch, girl, these bitches. So Carrie is again looking like, how is everybody making this about something else? It's about Big. Next scene. Brady and Shay are out the back of the little service smoking a little pipe. I don't know what kind of pipe this was. It was very interesting, but she was letting him hit the peace pipe, honey. So, of course, Miranda comes out and catches him. Miranda goes berserk. I feel like she overreacted. That's just me. I mean, it is a funeral or whatever it is. Somebody's dead, and it's just like, girl, let him hit it. So she cusses Shay out. Now, this part I do get because it's like, you're a grown adult and, you know, she tells her that she's corrupting a minor, blah, blah, blah. This is before she knew who Shay was. So, yeah. So Miranda, she basically threatened Shay. Like, she was going hard. She was making some pretty serious threats to her life. So she goes inside to find her husband so that he can take Brady home. And she ends up finding Carrie, who is over there talking to Che. And she introduces Che as her boss. And that's when Miranda is totally embarrassed and tries to apologize to Che. So this is the next scene. The ladies arrive home with Carrie. They're all in the elevator. And they're greeted with a ton of crap. Like just a bunch of non-floral types of... You know how people send flowers and stuff when someone dies? Well, Carrie didn't want any of that. So they sent everything that's not flower related. Fruit baskets, balloons, songs that play off this shit. That just... Stuff that Carrie really truly didn't want, right? Nothing that Carrie and Big do is average, typical. So, yeah. So, it's like half the whole hallway is filled with this stuff. So we see Charlotte. She's sleeping in Carrie's bed. So it looks like they're taking turns at Carrie's old apartment. I think that's where they are. Carrie's in a chair and she's just going through her phone, and she ends up sending a text to Samantha telling her thank you for the flowers. So in the next scene, we're at the subway. Again, Miranda and the professor, they have the same route or whatever, so they're there. Some creepy person in a Chucky outfit starts terrorizing everybody at the subway, and the professor being one, and he tries to take her bag. And this time Miranda steps in like, oh hell no. Miranda, she like bopped Chucky in the head with her textbook. And she goes to console the professor and tells her this was unclear whether or not this was a white savior moment, but you know, she did what she had to do. They pound it out, and they have a little inside joke about old school, because she always, you know, she said that to Miranda, that she's old school because she likes to carry books, a bunch of books, instead of like a Kindle. So the next scene, the husband's ashes arrive in a box. So Big's ashes arrive in the box. Carrie calls her friends over for support. Her friends being Miranda and Stanford, and they have like martinis. So then she gets a call from the doorman that Charlotte is on her way over, and Charlotte wasn't invited because she can't control her goddamn emotions. That's exactly what it is. Carrie told Stanley to hide because it's not going to look funny if Miranda's there, because it's Miranda's night to sleep over anyway. But if she sees Stanley, she's going to know that she wasn't invited. Charlotte brings over some magazines that Carrie might enjoy. She brings over magazines like Vogue, British Vogue, you know, Italian Vogue, all that kind of stuff that Carrie likes. Charlotte peeps Stanford because his dumbass runs out and grabs his martini while Carrie's standing there in the door with Charlotte. So she sees his ass and she's like, oh, you know, Charlotte. And she tells her straight up, like, look, this is what it is. You keep on taking this, you know, making this shit about you. I can't even grieve properly. And that's why I didn't call you over here. So they kind of get into it, and Carrie finally is able to express her anger and her hurt about not going to, basically not making the right decision for her and Big. It really had nothing to do with Charlotte, but it does, but it doesn't. Like, the basis of it is not Charlotte. It's just the matter at hand. Like, I should have just blah, blah, blah with my husband. You know what I mean? And she let her have that moment because at the core, they both needed to hear it and say it and just let that be. She wasn't blaming Charlotte, though. So that night, Carrie has trouble sleeping, and the girls look like they're taking turns coming over to sleep with Carrie. So this particular night, it was Miranda's night, and Carrie asked Miranda for another pill, and she told her no. After looking at the time, she can't have another pill for another 5 hours. So Carrie has to wait 5 hours for her next pill, and we see Carrie going to the living room and the sitting room to lay down. Big's ashes are in a box right there on the table. That's when Carrie, you know, narrates and says this night she's about to find out how long 5 hours actually is, and the scene ends there. I'm gonna come right back and share my thoughts with you guys. Okay, you guys, this is the final look. So basically my thoughts, I shared them kind of throughout, but I'm still not comfortable with this whole Brady situation, but I get it. Secondly, I feel like there's something going on with Miranda and Steve, but I'm not sure what it is. I don't think she's happy with Steve, but we'll see. Carrie, heart breaks for Carrie. Heart truly breaks for Carrie. It's like, God. But I feel like Carrie and Aiden are gonna link. Those are my thoughts. I'm not clear about that Susan woman, and I'm not clear about Gloria. And Charlotte, I don't really have too many thoughts about Charlotte. I'm glad that Carrie finally told her, look, you're doing too much. You're doing way too much. I need to be able to grieve. But Charlotte is probably just an emotional ass person like me, and it's very hard for us to separate our emotions. You know, if my friend, her loved one died, I'm crying. And then just lastly, the professor, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. There's so many things that, you know, they are opening up, but we just have to wait and see. So thank you guys for coming back for the second episode. I'm sorry it was so janky and here, there, and everywhere. Freaking battery died. and I'm on trapping off the iPhone. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.